things like individual stocks and Bitcoin and stuff that maybe has a chance to go up in value, but maybe also has a chance of going to zero. Because when it comes to personal finance, if you focus on being a hitter and not a slugger, you over the long term will do significantly better than most sluggers end up doing. What do I mean by hitter versus slugger? Well, what I mean is that in the world of baseball, you really have two types of players. You have hitters, the reliable ones, the ones that make the base hit. They're the ones that over time lead the championship. They're reliable, they're always hitting 3 or 4 out of every 10 at bat, and they're the ones that put players in positions to win. Now, then you've got the sluggers. These are the guys that strike their best. They have a significantly higher likelihood of striking out. And every once in a while, they hit a home run or a grand slam and the crowd goes wild. But at the end of the day, they aren't the guys that win the championship. And in the world of finances, if you focus on consistently making base hits, increasing your money by just a little bit, without taking so much risk that you go past zero on the way down, that is how you win. One of my favorite concepts in the world of personal finance and economics is the idea that the best way to win is by never losing money, which means you aren't always trying to hit home runs, you're just trying to make sure that you never strike out. And you never make bets solely on the information that you see on the internet, without looking for context first. Because here's the next piece of the story. If we go back to our graph that shows the federal total public debt, there's more to the story than just this graph. And this is the piece that the gurus never seem to. And that's the fact that people like to pretend like this debt to GDP number is crazy and it's unlike anything we've seen before. The only outcome could be the total and complete collapse of the United States. But if you're smart and you go and you look and read between the lines, what you'll find is that no, it isn't the only time in history that we've been in this position. And yes, there was a very real way out of the predicament then, and there's a real way out of the predicament now. And the way to do that is by increasing productivity. And as long as you haven't been living under a rock, you know that productivity is something that is increasing drastically at this very moment. And when you look back to the 1940s and the 1950s, you can clearly see that the way that the U.S. worked themselves out of the national debt problem that they had back then, that they're facing right now, was by increasing productivity, increasing the GDP. And if GDP is increased, the debt to GDP ratio naturally goes down. So this is something that is actually manageable and solvable. But the guys on the internet, they'd have you believe that this is not solvable, and the only possible outcome is demise. Well, it's not. And then let's take a look at U.S. credit card balances. Because the credit card balances themselves don't tell the whole story. Because when you extrapolate this a little bit further, what you can see is that wages have actually increased more than the credit card debt itself. And when you understand that, you can start to look for things like this, which is the total debt servicing of those credit cards, which in other words is the percentage of income that people are using to pay these credit card debts. And yeah, in 2007, these numbers were incredibly high. A pretty significant portion of people's incomes were going towards their credit card debt. But today, even though the nominal amount of credit card debt is through the roof, over $1 trillion, that debt relative to income is significantly smaller than it was in 2007-2008. And in fact, it's lower than it historically is on average, which means this isn't as big of a problem as it seems to be when you look at just the debt number itself. And then let's talk about housing prices. Because yes, they've gone up, and they've gone up significantly. But just like we did for credit card debt, we can start to take a look at the percentage of income that's being used to service those mortgages. And unlike in 2008, when it was through the roof, what we can see now is that the cost to service these mortgages is well below the historical average. So yes, all of these numbers, they are super crazy when they are looked at just through the lens of their nominal amounts. And what I mean by nominal amount is just looking at the pure dollar figures. But when you add context to them, it becomes clear that none of these things are as big of an issue as they seem to be. Now, obviously, the big issue was inflation. The fact that these numbers can be this high and not be as big of a problem as they seem to be is largely due to inflation. That's the big problem. But none of these things independently is going to be the thing that brings the U.S. to break and collapse. And, well, many people are making these videos about nobody really knowing what's going to happen.
What's up, YouTube? Listen, family, you guys ready to make some money this week? Let me know down in the comments below. Coach won't hold you guys long today, but I got a word for you as always. So please keep it locked. Please make sure you like, subscribe. Hope this video get at least 1,000 likes. Without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into it. Okay, guys, really quickly before we dive into the stocks, a couple things. I'm pulling this up momentarily. I want you guys to look at the 3 green soldiers for me, all right? This is the pattern that I want you to look for. All of them is what you should look for when you are studying your charts, okay? But for this week and tomorrow specifically, you're going to get this pattern with some of the stocks I'm going to give you today. And I need you to know the time frame. So write this down,
I'm
okay?
looking forward to
the time
this.
frame that you focus this on is the 15-minute time frame. When you see 3 green soldiers on the 15-minute time frame, that's number
This
1.
world
The 1
is full
hour,
of unsolved
number 2,
mysteries.
and the 1 day is number 3. Any of those time frames, you are going to get a nice move from this, okay? Meaning if you're in it beforehand, and then you see you can kind of stay in it if you're in it beforehand. Get in on the first candle, you know you got 2 more that's going to continue. That's part of the 3 green soldiers, okay? We call them no limit soldiers, but for the sake of being technical, guys, 3 green soldiers, right? Call them no limit soldiers because they change your life if you're. But I want to give you the time frame, okay? 15 minutes, 1 hour, 1 day if you see these, okay? That is that. Now listen, everybody else, make sure you're in the Discord first thing in the morning. This is also something that works in the opposite direction. Like if you have some stocks that's going to go down this week, like say AMD or say Tesla, okay? If you see this forming on that, the same principles apply. The market does the same thing to the upside as well as in an inverse fashion. So I always tell you, everything Coach teaches you is universal. You can go apply it in other areas, okay? Being in this work, first thing in the morning, everybody else you should be in the winning team, okay? Make sure your email is 1 point associated with your PayPal account, okay? Now look at this, guys. Coach has a few plays for you on today. And I'm kicking it off with AVGO, otherwise known as Broadcom. You guys are going to get a nice move on this one. You already did.
I remember a time when Republicans were very careful about and worried about the government, particularly unelected people.
Well, we can't trust the government anymore.
Having access. That's our regional data.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
You are the government.
Yes, that's what I'm saying, is that the American people now are saying that we have had our personal information shared and out there in the public.
Has access to it.
But Elon Musk is part of the administration that is helping us identify where we can find savings and what we can do. And he has gone through the processes to make sure that he has the authority.
You're totally
the president has granted him. I am today by the work that he is doing by identifying waste, fraud, and abuse. And his information that he has is looking at programs, not focusing on personal data and information.
Not focusing on it, but he has access to it.
We'll be continuing to talk to him about what all he has access to. But this audit needs to happen to make sure that we are going through a process that adds integrity back into these programs.
That was Trump's Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem serving up a word salad in order to try and justify Elon Musk's intervention in all aspects of our private information, ultimately saying that people don't trust the government, only to be told that she is the government. I mean, honestly, nothing makes it clear that Republicans only know how to whine from the minority than Kristi Noem complaining about the government while she's quite literally a cabinet official in the government. No notes, Kristi. No notes. I mean, she literally complains that our personal information has been shared by the government as a response to a question about Elon Musk and his band of teenage lieutenants having unfettered access to our personal information. How do you both complain about a problem and defend your party doing it in the same breath? If you're looking for the definition of cognitive dissonance, this is it. And of course, she eventually gets around to saying that all of the exposure of our sensitive private information is justified because Elon will ultimately root out waste, fraud, and abuse. But let's think about this for a minute. What is the federal agency most known for financial mismanagement?
Sooner we're done.
What's the federal agency that's failed the last 7 audits in a row? That would be the Pentagon. And yet, has Elon gone to the Pentagon? Nope. He's instead spent his time going after agencies like USAID, which account for all of 0.5% of the budget, and which just so happened to be investigating his company, Starlink. He's also spent his time going after the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which has returned a staggering $21 billion to 205 million consumers. The only purpose of the CFPB is to assist consumers who've been defrauded by predatory financial institutions. And yet, that's apparently a target for Elon Musk. So when people like Kristi Noem say that he's rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse, I find it especially curious that they're not asking any questions about the fact that the agencies he's targeting are a net positive to Americans in the world, and yet the agencies known for waste, fraud, and abuse are thus far getting a free pass. Do they want to actually root out waste, fraud, and abuse, or do they just want to give Elon unfettered access to our private information while placating themselves by just saying that he's going after those things? Judging by Noem's response here, I think we've got our answer. And while these people are so unvexed about some random unelected billionaire having access to all of our private information, the reality is that if the tables were turned and George Soros was granted full access to our data and social security numbers, Republicans would rightfully be having a full 24-hour-per-day meltdown. I mean, we all know it. It would completely envelop the news coverage, and the mainstream media would watch right-wing media melt down, and they too would take the bait and cover it nonstop. But now that a Republican has access to all of our private data, right-wing media takes it with a shrug, and the mainstream press sees that and figures, well, if they're not freaking out, we shouldn't either. And now we're in a situation where the richest man in the world has access to all of our private information about Americans, and somehow we're supposed to be fine with it. Like, I'm old enough to remember the entire right calling Hillary Clinton the biggest national security threat America's ever seen because she used a private email server, and keeping private information private was purportedly that important to Republicans. And yet now, stick a bunch of 19-year-olds into the Treasury system, and they don't have a single word to say? That is the definition of partisan hacks who stand for nothing. Now, while Republicans don't seem to mind Elon and his band of high schoolers rummaging through our social security numbers, a judge has taken a different tack. Here's Mark Elias explaining what happened at the hands of a federal judge in New York.
Yeah, this is a blockbuster ruling from a federal judge in New York City who was asked on an emergency basis to block DOJ's access to the very sensitive databases at the U.S. Treasury Department. Not just to block Elon Musk's access, right? Some of the earlier cases we talked about, there has been this kind of like parsing about whether
this moment will be frozen in time.
In the Treasury Department only right or whether only the special government employees could have access to the information, not others. What this judge did is that nobody can have access to it. Only persons within the Treasury Department have access to these databases. And that any material or printouts or downloads of any information from these things have to be destroyed by anyone associated with those right cabinet. So this judge has really, at this point, put a complete halt on the infiltration, the exfiltration of data, the infiltration of personnel, the embedding of personnel into these databases that have personally identifying information like people's social security numbers. This is a big, bold order from a very good, experienced federal judge in New York City. It's only a temporary hold until the case can be ultimately heard on the merits and decided. That is true about all these cases we're hearing about, and no one should worry about it. That's how the system works, right? Is that first there's an emergency order and there's sort of status quo put in place, and then the case is decided from there.
And because Republicans are strict constitutionalists and respect the rule of law, Elon took to Twitter demanding that the federal judge who dared suggest that random teenagers shouldn't be able to access private data at the U.S. Treasury be impeached. Quote, a corrupt judge protecting corruption, he needs to be impeached now. That's your law and order party at work. A federal judge makes the cardinal sin of trying to keep our private information private, and now, suddenly, he should be impeached. This was Glenn Kirshner's response to that move by Elon.
This is like Elon Musk sort of rounding up a posse of lawless thugs saying the rule of law doesn't matter. The sanctity of federal judges and the responsibility federal judges have to keep, for example, a runaway executive branch or legislative branch in check by applying the rule of law, and it doesn't matter. The Constitution doesn't matter. If you that Donald Trump and his co-president Elon Musk are trying to do, we are coming after you in the most lawless way. We're going to ask that you be impeached, that you be removed from office, that you at least figuratively be dragged off the federal bench by the scruff of your black robe. This is lawlessness run amok, and when Elon Musk says something like, "This is a corrupt judge acting corruptly," that is stone cold bullshit. That is a judge in New York, a federal judge in the Southern District of New York, applying the facts and the law to a question of whether things should be temporarily frozen, whether there should be a temporary injunction or a temporary restraining order issued to put a stop to the potential lawlessness of Elon Musk and his band of frat boys getting into our, among other things, PII, personal identifying information, our financial information. This is stuff that these, part-time government employees, or, temporary government employees, limited-purpose government employees are not permitted to access.
The reality is that right now, Elon's overreach is obvious, and it's made worse by virtue of the fact that the party shielding him is the same party that once pretended to care about government overreach. This is the party that swept into office under the pretense of small government that is now enabling an unelected billionaire and his band of high school graduates access to our information that nobody should have access to. If the GOP was capable of shame, they wouldn't be able to do what they're doing right now. But while they're fine with the pilfering of our private information,
Good morning, ladies and dudes. You already know what's up. Let's check out our cooler. Not so bad. Actually, super clean in here today. Lots of rolling stock. More allergic stock. I am super low on milk. I'm hoping I get my milk in early, because if not, I'm gonna have to hear it from my boss, which I don't want, Joe. So let's get this big card, shall we? Joe, this bathroom is a disaster. It's so messy. It's like this every morning. Got my empty milk crates. Did you pick these up today? It's I think I hope I get my milk in soon. I really hope so.
This world is full of unsolved mysteries.
I hear you've got a job for me.
You asked for it! Steady as stone. Stop right there! Final warning! I must leave no stone unturned.
I'm exhausted. I've been busy all morning. Receiving, putting up products, and yeah, I'm super exhausted, guys. I am super exhausted, but it's okay. I'm going to continue working hard. I'm a good worker, and I believe I'm a good worker, and I'm going to continue being a good worker. Oh man, I finally get to take my lunch, man. I got my rice and tilapia. Oh man, this smells so good. Anyways, I want to talk to y'all about a comment that I got yesterday. Someone, the haters, I love them. Some hater, I guess, commented on, I don't know if it was a video that I uploaded yesterday or one before, but they said, stay in school, kids. And I thought that was kind of funny because they're right. They're honestly right. It's better to stay in school because it's better to get an education, right? Listen, I'm going to be straight up with y'all. It's grade 100 with you guys. I'm a 39-year-old high school dropout. I dropped out when I think I was like 12th grade. I don't remember. I know I needed 2.5 credits. It wasn't much, but hey, listen, to be honest, I'm a high school dropout.
Stop right there!
For not my job. I didn't man. I'm just gonna say it like this. It's funny when I put that comment. I graduated high school, and even went to college, and they never thought it was time that they studied. Now that doesn't don't be like it was you want that's better. Do I wish I had a better job?
Final warning! Hands are up, see ya!
But this is my life right now. At least I plan down for a job or I don't know, take a trade. I don't want to do so right now just because my wife and I we're married already, but we're having a second ceremony and like the planning is just dang, it is crazy how much planning goes into the wedding. But yeah.
As a beautiful maid.
Yeah.
Oh, and a day's work.
Really? I just thought it was. When I got that comment, I was laughing because like stay in school, kids.
Yeah, drop your weapons.
Yeah. But I'll get it. Listen. This is the right way. No one else can talk out other than myself. And
Final warning!
Gosh, me. I'm surprised.
Look what
So
we have
frustrated.
here.
So, anyways, how y'all doing? I don't know. I'm gonna eat this and, alright, I'm living in this album in 10 minutes, bro. Work done. Crazy, man. But I got most of my work done, not all of it. You know what? Tomorrow's another day. I mean, I'm off tomorrow, so. But sometimes I always got my work done. It was a lot of work.
Stop right there! You asked for it! Final warning!
There better not be any contraband in here.
So MAGA is getting screwed from the front and the back by both Donald Trump and Elon Musk. And there are no reach arounds, as these guys are not your friend. That's the subject of today's video, and check this out. This is a MAGA voter who realized he's getting screwed by both Trump and Musk. Have a listen.
I want to start off by saying I did vote for Donald Trump. We are possibly going to lose our farm if NRCS doesn't hold up their contract with us on the EQIP program. So the reason that they're not able to hold up the contract is our EQIP program, which is cost sharing on fences, waters, a well, and some seedings, was funded by the Inflation Reduction Act. Because of the executive funding the Inflation Reduction Act, and they're not able to pay out the I'm not the only one that's affected. So there are other farmers in the comments saying that they're in the same boat that I'm in because they signed this contract. Even though I was in the contract, I made sure that that funding was set aside. It wasn't funding that what we hope is there whenever it's done. I made sure that funding was set aside. I knew that funding was there per contract. On the contract, they don't have the funding, they can't release the funds. I want to start off on that.
As you can see, that guy is a Trump MAGA voter, and essentially he's getting screwed and could possibly go bankrupt. Elon Musk has come out with money. Now, will MAGA finally realize the error of their ways of being hurt by this stuff? We'll see. But I'll say this, people in Congress are taking note, and in fact already introducing bills against Elon Musk specifically. This is called the Nobody Elected Elon Musk Act. The basic gist of it is, and I'll show it to you here, is that you'll make Elon Musk liable for anything that he does. When in doubt, put these people's pocketbooks on the line. We'll see how this goes in Congress. I'll give you updates, but this is not the only bill. This is another one. This is the Elon Musk Act. This is the idea to ban any sort of federal contracts. There's something about he is a special government employee, so there's definitely a conflict of interest there as he's dealing with the budgets of essentially services or programs that are oversight on Musk companies. So clearly that's insane. You guys also have stuff to say about this as well. These are some comments from our community. The Lorax says, so a billionaire appointing other billionaires to fix the system that made them billionaires, and people are buying that? Billionaires are successful from exploiting others, not buying hardware. Yep, Lorax sees it. We also have this, Just a Guy. Just a Guy says, I'm 70, and my wish is to live long enough to see Musk living in a Tesla. You may get your bet. You may get your wish. Guys, what's going on is that both Musk and Trump, they're pissing off so many people, right? And even their own voting base, right? They're cutting off their funding and threatening bankruptcy on those kind of people. This is sort of the kind of stuff you'll see in headlines these days. USDA freezes farmer funding for some programs or conservation contracts. There is some stuff that is still going out. So, for example, I'm going to say not everything is cut, but it all depends, right? And this is part of it's hard to read about the Trumps and Musk is that it's so chaotic right now. U.S. to keep sending food aid to poor country, USDA says. Essentially, there's a lot of these programs, this is an example of it, to where it's like a subsidy to American companies, and the American companies make food, and then we send that abroad to build goodwill around the world. So we're all stuff. The government does a lot involved with this. On top of that, we've got stuff like this. Trump is now introducing new tariffs. I don't think this is going to lower the price of eggs. Sorry, guys. This is giving out steel and aluminum 25%. The lower is being announced on Monday. It's sort of pretty right on. We'll see on that. On top of that, cuts coming from the Trumps and the Musk. I guess the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau is what it stands for, CFPB. This was actually a bureau that was formed after the Great Financial Crisis to protect people from banks doing any sort of foul practices that hurt consumers. The head of it's like telling people, I guess, that would say all supervision, so I guess we're basically not going to do anything, which is frankly insane. I don't know if they're going to be any pushback on this one, but there should be. But I said, this I don't know. I think the USD one will probably get more pushback to this one, but this is actually probably the more important one. Well, I mean, they're all important, but I'll put it this way. This one deals with like real out of money directly. And so let me give you an example of some of the stuff that the Musk comes to try and pull. So Donald Trump's president in the office, you could say Elon Musk is as well, I guess. They're co-presidents, or, first by everyone to say it. And I guess Trump's company now wants to have ETFs his name on it. This is like, this should be illegal. I don't really know how this is legal.
Look what we have here.
No, again, Trump's company wants to sell you investment products. They've trademarked these things, so it's going to be RU3i'y, I guess, Made in America ETF, Made in America SMA, U.S. Energy Independence ETF, and you also got Bitcoin products. Because obviously the company is stuff, like Trump announces something, whatever, this thing must be got Trump's brand on it. Insider trading, and therefore it's like so ridiculous. You see President Trump trying this kind of stuff, but that's the stuff that Trump does. A lot of this stuff is illegal. UUVL8rIv things, right, to stopping funding. I mean, there's going to be so many court fights over this stuff. That's why I told you guys to ask specifically. And regarding USAID stuff, people always ask me questions about these things, like, why do we cover every single claim that Musk makes? I'll just say this, a lot of stuff that Musk says is lies, a vast majority of it, or misleading kind of things. I will say this though, there are real Americans affected, and again, people around the world. This was an interesting story. It says people are crying in the hallways because they just wanted to fire pretty much everybody. On top of that, there was another one, the Americans can and will die from this, because again, they just cut all funding, and from my understanding of it, basically like countries, some people can't even stay comfortably where they are. They can be kidnapped, these things, and like their ability to contact, the government, or like to have like a panic button kind of thing on their phone has been disabled, and their lives are in danger. So it's pretty ridiculous for some of us to like cut them off like that. But that's essentially what they're doing, the same way they cut off that farmer in the beginning. Let me read a little bit of what USAID worker has to say. They said, no one's asking us anything. And while they're not asking us every night, we're getting an email decapitating us more. Our leadership has been put on administrative leave for insubordination that no one can pinpoint. Our systems are being shut off. We are being vilified by Musk Twitter for being horrible, for being criminals. Every day you wake up to some onslaught of horrors, which all culminated with this decision to close all missions worldwide. They also go on to say, and one thing that I think is really important to say, to people, the people I work with really are civil servants. They genuinely, to their core, believe in the mission of what we're doing. I do not have one person, one colleague that said a bad thing about Trump's foreign policy before the election. We're under the Hatch Act. We can't even talk about who we vote for. People take that very seriously. We take that oath very seriously. We respect the orders of the administration in power. It wasn't until yesterday that my mission director turned to me and said it is very clear that this whole effing thing about the review has been a BS and we're done. And I emphasize this, guys, so many times that there's certain things that many people that work in civil service, it's not about partisanship, it's not about any particular party. You're just doing your job. I'll give you a simple example, like, because we're going to talk about later in the video, let's say something like Secret Service. There's people who they're there to protect the president, no matter which president, whatever party, they're just there to do their job. The same way, say, someone with USAID is like, hey, my job is to distribute food to people who need it and spread goodwill. Like that's their job. It's not really a political thing in the sense of a matter of who's in office. And so this idea that again, we just cut these kind of people off. Any number of positions out there, be it CIA, Intel, national security concept, FBI, internal threats, any number of workers, or just social security workers, or even the people we talked about before in the, protect consumers from companies that may try to cheat consumers, and they're there as a way for consumers to protect themselves, like any number of things. So it's a shame that so many things are partisan all the time. Some things are not, and many people think also just doing the job to represent the president. So I just wanted to hear a voice of someone from inside. That's the kind of stuff that Trump does, right? He makes a stupid decision, something really bad happens, convinces followers that it's fine, and then he makes the stupid decision, and we keep seeing that cycle of chaos keep going on. J.D. Vance is saying some weird stuff. This is stuff you'll hear from the Republican side. He says, if a judge tried to tell a general how to conduct a military operation, that would be illegal. If a judge tried to command the attorney general in how to use for discretion of the prosecutor, that is also illegal. Judges aren't allowed to control the executive's legitimate power. So J.D. Vance is like basically trash talking judges here. Adam Schiff has a rebuttal. He says, J.D., we both went to law school, but we don't have to be lawyers to know that if you don't enforce meetings, you'll lie. Put us on a dangerous path through law. We just have to swear and to know the Constitution and mean it. And the Vance arguments as far as everyone makes is frankly ridiculous. Yes, I believe in rule of law, and courts will rule things, right? Courts all the time. Many people, Vance, say 10 years from now, 20 years from now, they're going to be on the wrong side of history. And I'm just telling you guys, partnering with Musk and Trump's, and use Trump's example as a felon, you don't want to be anywhere near that guy. And that's essentially why Trump can't get good people. So there's that. On top of that, we're going to hear these things from the Musk side. So I just want to show you guys what they're saying. This is actually Tesla. It's called Tesla in Silicon Valley. This is the kind of claims that they're making. They just tweeted out February 10th. The people 100% voted for Elon Musk and Go. Right? They're going to say, hey, you guys 100% voted for Elon. It was part of the whole campaign for Trump.
Drop your weapons.
I'll let you do the judge. I think it's a pretty ridiculous claim, but that's what they say. On top of that, this was kind of an interesting one, and I'm curious how it's going to affect T-Mobile. I guess there was a commercial running, I think it's about the Super Bowl, where now Elon Musk and Starlink are working with T-Mobile. So will people start boycotting T-Mobile? That's an interesting question. So you guys can let me know in the comments what you think about that. And also regarding the Super Bowl, Donald Trump was flying out to the Super Bowl on Air Force One. He's the first president to go to the Super Bowl, so whoever president ever has. And the first question that came by, was like, I bet you it's going to be a show. I didn't see any price tag on it, so I think maybe to distract people from not talking about the price tag of going to the Super Bowl. He declared the Gulf of Mexico is now Gulf of America. And I think it's Gulf of America Day. I guess maybe we're adding a holiday or something. February 9th, Gulf of America Day. Even the pilot came on board. Like, Gulf of America. There he is signing it. this lockdown, one Wolf America now. But that's the stuff that Donald Trump is doing, is cutting the farmers, fraud and services, these kind of things, and signing in the important stuff according to President Trump. He started Super Bowl. I saw the video myself. People were just kind of standing there. I was thinking people did clap. Some people did. But I think about it, it was just kind of like, oh, that's the guy who makes TV all the time. So I don't know if it's expressing a shock. I've never met Trump in person, so because we all know who he is, right? And there's there has been some criticism about the security stuff, but I don't know the exact cost of what it was. But it was an odd video to watch. There's definitely Secret Service all around, and I keep mentioning the Secret Service stuff because they paid for a Secret Service ad for him, or for we'll say the Secret Service in general. It's an interesting one. It was Michael Bay, and I actually have the price tag here. I think it was $2 million for this thing. Yeah, there it is right there. Secret Service splashes out $2 million on Michael Bay produced recruiting ad at the Super Bowl. I actually thought the ad was pretty good. To be fair, I thought it was actually a pretty good ad. But I thought it was strange, and I wasn't sure if why we're advertising for Secret Service. I was thinking maybe we're having recruiting problems, and I looked up and it seems like we are a bit. So that's something to mention. On top of that, I'll just say this, guys. This is sort of why I mentioned the service thing. It is, these people are there to do the job to protect you, and in fact, Trump is not the Secret Service, right? But it seems like maybe they can't get enough people to come and work for them. Because I don't think we treat people enough. Like we sometimes don't pay these people, or we let them know on short notice, hey, Trump on those people, get out of bed and come protect the guy, and that kind of stuff. So we don't treat those people very well, and stuff that Trump don't consider other people's lives. Here's an example. I thought this was kind of interesting. This happened a few days ago. Some guy tried to climb the White House fence. You can see right there. He actually got over the fence, not the 13-foot fence, and there's like spikes on top of the fence. It's pretty crazy, right? So from the picture, you can't quite tell like how far he got exactly. But yeah, I guess he can make it to the top. And then there's another picture where they, basically it's talked by Secret Service kind of people. The point I'm trying to make is there are people out there, again, they do their job, the civil service, to protect you, and don't betray them, Musk and Trump. And I mean, all sincerity, it's not just Secret Service workers, all these people out there that are doing their jobs, just regular Americans. Don't screw people out of Social Security, don't screw people out of Medicare, but that's kind of what the Trumps and Musk are doing. They're looking to, cut services that people need so they can build their stupid Stargate AI stuff and blow up rockets to Mars. And I find that really offensive. And that's why I'm just showing you guys kind of the thing that's going on. And, it's funny because I'm pretty sure Fox News won't bring up the trip, it goes through by Trump and how much it costs, etc. Again, he's the first president ever to go. But I'm pretty sure it wasn't cheap with all those people around, and you had to have so many security around him to go to this thing. The one thing I will say about this stuff is, again, you're not alone. I keep seeing these kind of reports. It says here, Trump official warns almost no one can control Elon Musk. I think ultimately there's going to be a divide between these two guys because, both of them want to be in the spotlight, and effectively they're making a TV show, right? Even with the recruiting after Secret Service, people are using Michael Bay to produce that thing, and we'll see if the town is big enough for both of them. So that's my thoughts on this stuff. Please be careful out there, and I'll catch you on the next video.
Tonight, another major escalation in Donald Trump's trade policy. The tariff on steel and aluminum, the president says it's tomorrow.
Including Canada? Yeah. Any steel coming into the United States is going to have a 25% tariff.
And Trump doesn't deny his real desire to make Canada the 51st state.
I love the people of Canada. We have a great relationship. But if they became our 51st state, the greatest thing they could ever do.
We try to do it as much as possible, but it is quite stiff.
The challenges some are facing campaign to buy Canadian.
field had a different thought process when we were selecting a product.
There better not be any contraband in here.
Delay, and then it kind of starts playing on it.
Class born with perfect pitch.
My goal is just to make as positive of an impact on the world as I can.
The BC artist combining tenacity and technology to realize on simple dreams.
CTV National News with Heather Fox.
Good evening. We begin with developing news and another major escalation in Donald Trump's overhaul of U.S. trade policy. The president says he is set to announce 25% tariffs tomorrow on steel and aluminum imports, including from Canada and Mexico. The Canada Industry Minister says Canadian steel and aluminum support key industries in the U.S., from defense, shipbuilding, and auto. This is making North America more competitive and secure. The president also confirming today his desire to have Canada as a 51st state is no joke. Starts us off.
Speaking to reporters on board Air Force One today, President Donald Trump had some surprising new announcements on tariffs.
We'll also be announcing steel tariffs on Monday. Monday, yeah. Everybody, steel. Yeah, any steel coming into the United States is going to have a 25% tariff.
Reacting to the news, a senior government source in Paris with the Prime Minister says they'll wait to see something in writing.